evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Love Connection. We're continuing to talk about the committed romantic relationship, and we're coming at it at an angle of mind reading. I have with me in the studio today my special guest, Megan Ward. She is my subject of study. Megan, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we get started? Or?
Yes, I would love to give a shout out to Professor Earhart. She was my professor last semester for public speaking. Hey, Professor Earhart, I hope you're having a good semester.
Now, my listeners have been calling in. They're in romantic relationships with their significant others, and I guess from what I've been hearing, they've been trying to have their mind read or predict what they're thinking or what they're doing. Pretty much their significant other has been trying to mind read them. And the concept of mind reading, from what I understand with my studies, has been to the point where one of the parties tries to predict what the other one is going to say before they say it, try to control what they're doing before they have an idea of what's going on. Has anything like that ever happened to you? Can I give my listeners an example of what I'm trying to talk about?
Yes, that has actually happened many times from, like in previous relationships where the guy would automatically try to mind read and assume something. And I was guilty of the same thing. There are times where I tried to mind read the male and, it leads to more problems. But one time in particular, it was a weekend and I was at the library studying, and of course, when I got home, or went to go see, my significant other, he got upset because he automatically assumed, well, it's the weekend, you went out and partied as opposed to spending time with me. And in reality, I was at the library studying. So, now that he's already lashed out at me and got upset about everything, when I was finally able to tell him, okay, I was at the library studying, then he felt, bad, and he tried to mind read the situation. I believe that if he would have approached me differently, then maybe we could have talked about it, and then he could have understood, and that would have not led to arguments, and we could have enjoyed the rest of our evening. So, there's been many cases other than just that, where, we'll try to mind read each other,
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is like an automatic thing that people do. It's I hate to say it, but it's human nature. We do it all the time, whether we're in a committed romantic relationship setting or just around coworkers, family, friends, whatever. It's our nature to try to control our surroundings, and in order to try to control our surroundings, one of the steps is trying to predict what's going to happen next. Because if we can predict what's going to happen next, then we can either make it happen again or stop it from happening. But in all reality, no one can control the environment around them. So, really, in all honesty, trying to mind read somebody, what I mean by that is trying to automatically assume that you have the whole story without any facts, trying to finish the sentence before they get it out, just assuming that you know what they're going to say next. Those kind of things normally lead to arguments. I haven't heard of any positive mind reading. Every one of my callers that have called in, they've always talked about how they have argued and fought, and like you just said, it ruined the entire evening. And so it's one of those things that is very present, and we have to be mindful of it. It just comes so naturally that if we're not constantly thinking about it, not constantly, and it goes to the old think before you speak. Just think about what you're saying before you say it, because more times than not, if you assume too much, you're going to find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. And guys, we're normally very guilty of this kind of thing, of when it comes to cheating or whatever. Especially in a committed romantic relationship, the biggest fear of the other partner is that you're being cheated on. That's the first thing that comes to anybody's mind. If the man works late, if the woman's out late, if she's out without him, he's wondering, okay, is she really with her girlfriends, or is she really at the library, or is she really here, there, like she said, or is she using that to cover up so that I won't be asking too many questions, and vice versa. The man's out, the woman automatically thinks there's another woman involved.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And also, I think that gives them time to simmer and get upset, because like you said, when they're sitting there thinking, are they really where they say they are, it gives them time to sit there and think and marinate. So then by the time that person comes home, or, by the time they see each other the next time, they're already upset and angry, and they're already,
They're frustrated. They've got it all bottled up.
Exactly.
And what happens with that is they've had all this time to put together a synopsis of what has happened. They've already looked at every angle.
Exactly.
And they say, okay, so no matter what they say, I've got to come back for it. You know, you were here doing this. Well, how can I be doing that? Well, this is how. You know, and you've got this whole scenario together of how could it be done. And it got blown out of proportion. It wasn't even that way at all. And so, you can see how dangerous and how critical and crippling this kind of concept can be, especially to someone who you're in a romantic relationship with. You're committed to that person. You're trying to build a future with that person, and yet the trust is being shaken with things like this. And normally, and I'm using that because normally within a romantic relationship, it's normally cheating is the main focus on when you're trying to mind read. Oh, you know, you're out doing with so-and-so, and you're doing this with him or with her or whatever. And, you know, granted, a man would come in, he has another woman's perfume on him, he may have some lipstick or some makeup on his shirt or whatever. The automatic assumption of the woman is there's another woman. There's another woman involved. But there could have been a little old lady at his job that was her last day working. She ran around and hugged everybody, goodbye, and her perfume rubbed off on him and her makeup got on him. And so there's not necessarily cheating involved when something like that happens.
We should always give them the benefit of the doubt.
We should always give our committed relationships the benefit of the doubt because you are trying to work on something. Now, unless there has been infidelity, I can understand why there would be a trust issue.
Exactly.
But if there's been no infidelity and there's been no lying in the past and it's been proven by time stamp proving, then there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to just take their word on it. Because if you can't trust that person, then there might be a bigger issue involved besides just mind reading. You may need to get a third party involved, a friend, a pastor, a counselor, somebody to mediate to where there's going to be some things that can be brought to the table with an objective third party there to keep the situation under control and minimize the miscommunications.
And Michael, if you don't mind me saying something, I really like the word when you said crippling. I think that's like the perfect word when you try to mind read in a committed relationship like that. Crippling, I think, is the perfect word that you can use. I really like that analogy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is crippling because, like you said, when the guy or the female, you know, whoever the person is, you know, when they're sitting there thinking, okay, well, are they really where they say they were? You know, they got time to, you know, simmer and get upset, and then the person that comes home, you know, and they're trying to explain themselves, and they're going to get mad because, like, well, you didn't even trust me. You know, you automatically jump to conclusions. You know, and you didn't even give me the benefit of the doubt, so that does cripple the relationship, and I think that causes more tension because, you know, he doesn't believe her, and, you know, she is upset because he, you know, had the audacity to even think that way or, you know, accuse her. You know, I really like that word crippling. I think that's like the perfect word, you know, with mind, like when you try to mind read.
Yeah, and it causes a lot of other things, and psychologically, it begins to, like I said, that scenario went down where the guy accused the girl. Well, now the girl's going to start thinking that, okay, he's out cheating because a guilty conscience would think that I'm cheating, and he thinks that because that's what he's doing. And so it just sets in motion a whole other thing. But that's another show, and we'll see you back here next time. Megan, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
I know your schedule is very busy, and I was very honored to have you be able to come by.
Not a problem for you.
I've been trying for weeks and weeks, and her schedule has never opened up. So it's an honor to have you in the studio with us. Hopefully you can come back again. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week at the same time for another episode of The Love Connection.